Every sport has its own policy, of which some are named after a person or an incident that took place within the grounds. But Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Dolphins, has the terrible distinction of having a new NFL rule incorrectly named after him. What exactly does this rule state, and what event prompted the NFL to establish this rule? Find out all about this and more in today's video. In this episode, we'll talk about the Tua Rule and how Tua Tagovailoa altered the concussion protocol in the NFL. After significant public criticism, the NFL updated its concussion protocol and implemented the Tua Rule after the third-year Miami signal caller was diagnosed with a concussion during a Week 4 Thursday Night Football game against the Bengals. Following the Dolphins' alleged mistakes the week before against the Bills, the NFL's procedure was updated and met with harsh criticism. Several players have been ejected from games after the Tua Rule was implemented, which is a considerable increase from recent seasons and even the days before Tagovailoa's concussion. Independent certified athletic trainers, commonly known as ATC spotters, are now looking for players who exhibit gross motor instability, also known as ataxia, as part of the most recent modification to the NFL concussion protocol. So, what is the Tua Rule in a nutshell? The NFL and NFLPA unanimously approved the Tua Rule as an upgrade to the concussion protocol. Ataxia, or gross motor instability, has been added to the list of no-go symptoms under the revised protocol, which would require the immediate evacuation of a player from a game. Other similar symptoms include amnesia, confusion, and unconsciousness. ATC spotters are looking for players who exhibit symptoms of ataxia according to the new protocol, which was put into effect in Week 5. Players who exhibit these symptoms are then taken out of the game and put into concussion protocol. Ataxia is characterized by poor muscle control that causes clumsy voluntary movements. It may cause difficulty with walking and balance, hand coordination, speech and swallowing, and eye movements. Head injuries like the one Tagovailoa sustained against the Bills and Bengals can cause ataxia to develop over time. Just 3 days after Tagovailoa's concussion on Thursday Night Football, NFL clubs in Week 4 took extra precautions to eject players who displayed even the slightest indications of concussions or ataxia from games. This was even before the Tua Rule was implemented ahead of Week 5. The following week, several players, including his own backup Teddy Bridgewater, were banned from games due to the Tua Rule. But what exactly happened to Tua Tagovailoa that required the establishment of this rule? In Week 3, after being hit late by Bills linebacker Matt Milano, Tagovailoa struck his back and head against the Hard Rock Stadium turf, sparking criticism of the NFL concussion protocol for the first time. In the incident's video, Tagovailoa can be seen stumbling away from where he was lying on the ground while displaying symptoms of ataxia. He was permitted to come back after halftime after missing the last drive of the half. At the time, the action was sharply condemned, and the NFLPA declared it will look into the Dolphins and if they followed the process correctly. Tagovailoa stated after the game that he stumbled not because he struck his head, but because he hurt his back, worsening an existing ailment, despite the Dolphins initially designating him as questionable with a head injury. Coach Mike McDaniel backed up that assertion as well. The Bengals' Josh Tapu threw Tagovailoa to the ground, slamming the back of his head as a result, and the Dolphins had a quick turnaround in Week 4, traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Tagovailoa displayed a fence response, which is a response to head trauma, making it evident that he had been struck and had been concussed. Tagovailoa was subsequently taken to a local hospital where medical staff determined he was in good enough condition for the Dolphins to fly him back home. He was then sent into concussion protocol and missed Miami's games against the Jets and Vikings in Weeks 5 and 6 while he recovered from the blow. Later, he claimed he had only fleeting memories of his ambulance ride to the hospital and moments immediately preceding the hit. "After I got tackled, I don't remember much from there," Tagovailoa said in a statement. "Getting carted off, I don't remember that, but I do remember things that were going on when I was in the ambulance and then when I arrived at the hospital." And here's a follow-up question. Did the Dolphins follow NFL concussion protocol following what happened to Tagovailoa? McDaniel insisted that the Dolphins had adhered to the concussion protocol as critics blasted the team for allowing Tagovailoa to play. According to him, he won't try to cover up the situation as long as he is the team's coach. McDaniel stressed that they don't mess with that, and they never have, and as long as he's the head coach, it won't be a concern for the general public. If there's any sort of inclination that someone has a concussion, they go into concussion protocol, and it's very strict. He also added the day after the game. The NFL and Players Union looked into whether the Dolphins handled Tagovailoa's concussion properly in Week 3. The unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, UNC, who permitted Tagovailoa to re-enter the Bills game was fired as a result, and the NFLPA. The doctor made several mistakes according to the group, including conducting a hostile interview and failing to comprehend their obligations. The examination also showed that the Dolphins adhered to protocol exactly. As a result, it was decided that the methodology itself, not Miami's adherence to it, was defective. The Tua Rule was subsequently implemented by the NFL and NFLPA to better safeguard athletes like Tagovailoa, whose health would be put at risk if they continued to play in in games. So, is the NFL under fire after what happened to Tua Tagovailoa? You bet they are. The league and its players' union launched an inquiry after Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa took 2 significant hits, the second of which required that he be carried off the field. The league also announced that it would examine its concussion policy. After the investigation's results were made public over the weekend, the league declared it would immediately revise a significant aspect of its concussion policy. Now, as the NFL enters its 6th week of the season, everyone is intently monitoring officials to see how they treat concussions. But why is this uproar happening now of all times? The most recent concussion discussion was spurred by the hits on Tagovailoa. First, Tagovailoa was pushed to the ground and his head landed on the turf during a game on September 25th against the Buffalo Bills. After that, he stumbled and needed assistance to stand up, which led many spectators to speculate that he had suffered a concussion. After a medical checkup, he was cleared to play again, and club officials reportedly blamed Tagovailoa's shakiness on a back injury he'd suffered a few plays earlier. Then Tagovailoa made a comeback to the field for a Thursday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals 4 days later. The moment he was sacked and his head struck the ground once more, his fingers and arms began to flex strangely in what seemed to be a fence response, a symptom of traumatic brain damage. Following Tagovailoa's injury, a lot of observers, including former players and concussion specialists, opposed the quarterback's return to the field. According to J.C. Tretter, president of the NFL Players Association, everyone is appalled by what has been happening over the past few days and is concerned for the safety of one of their brothers. We need to figure out how and why the decisions were made last Sunday to allow a player with a no-go symptom back on the field, he said in a statement. But what exactly has the NFL been doing to address this escalating situation? Last weekend, the results of an inquiry performed by the NFL and its players' union were made public. Moreover, the league disclosed a modification to its concussion protocol. The review revealed that the NFL's concussion protocol had been adhered to while testing Tagovailoa, who exhibited no signs of a concussion at either his mid-game medical evaluation on September 25th or in the days that followed before the Thursday game. Instead, a back injury that Tagovailoa had suffered on a previous play was blamed for the quarterback's shakiness. However, the league and union also admitted that when their concussion protocol was written, the outcome in this case was not what was intended. The rule has been modified at this time. The revision focuses on ataxia, the medical term for the impaired muscle control brought on by concussions and manifested as slurred speech or unsteadiness. Any player who has an ataxia diagnosis won't be permitted to play going ahead. Previously, if there was a different reason for a moment of instability, such as Tagovailoa's misstep being attributed to the back ailment, players might return. The new rule has already been put into practice. During the Dolphins game, an unaffiliated certified athletic trainer, also known as an ATC spotter, claimed to have seen the team's backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, wobble after being struck on the opening snap of the contest. The new concussion policy provision was triggered by the report, and Bridgewater was removed from the contest. Along with Tagovailoa, he is currently in the concussion protocol. And that's the latest news regarding the NFL's new policy concerning the event surrounding Tua Tagovailoa. Do you agree with the league's course of action? Let us know in the comment section below. Before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell on for more videos like these. See you next time, and thanks for watching.